So thank you very much for joining me today. This is part of the Esperance Community Arts Digital Hub, and we're excited to be able to run the program for people to learn how to be on social media and to be able to record stories that they want to put out there for the community. So this is really what this is about, you learning the skills so that you can go home and really do this from your own home if you want to, which is pretty exciting. So as I said, my name's Pauline Bonney. I've worked in television as a TV presenter for GWN and also as a news presenter what seems like many moons ago. But I'm fortunate to be able to be a part of this program as well. So thank you for joining me today. And also thank you to Janine and Dave for assisting as well. So really, the handout in front of you has got all the information that that will tell you, I guess, what you need to be able to do in order to present in front of the camera. The key in the first one, if you have a look at number 1, is your posture. The way you sit, the way you stand is really going to tell people a lot about yourself. If you're not confident, then really that'll show. It'll show by the way you hold yourself on camera. So you want to be able to make sure that when you're facing the camera can see that you're presenting well. You're not, slouching over. You're not, looking like you're falling asleep, because obviously your audience is going to be like, well, you look really tired and bored, so, why should I engage with you? So really, yeah, we want to make sure that we're excited and that when people engage with us, they'll basically mimic what we're doing. So if we're sitting up straight and if we're engaging with them, then they'll engage back with us. So that's what we want to mirror to them. Okay, so that's the first thing.
Not look scared.
So the second one is really gestures. And gestures, it's one of those things where sometimes people can wave their arms around and they can become very, very dramatic. But I guess the key, and I'm one of those people are kind of, I'm a hand speaker, so it's easier for me to sit behind a desk and hold my hands still because I tend to talk with my hands. But the key for gestures is that it's really about emphasising the main points. So for me, if I'm trying to say something and I want you to really get the point that I'm talking about, I will use my hands to really get that point across. So less is more. It's better if you can use them as a tool for you rather than against you, because you don't want your audience to become distracted by too much hand waving and going like this and that, because they'll be like, what's she doing? What's going on in the background? That's what they'll be thinking, rather than actually focusing on you, which is what we want them to do. We want them to actually listen to our message. So any questions on that one? No, everyone sort of got that? Yep. Cool. Okay. So the next one is the eye line. So this is really for when you're at home and recording yourself. The key is that you need to be able to talk to the camera. That's the key. So if you're looking down, the audience isn't going to see you. You're going to be, if I was reading straight from here and looking down, it'd be like, for eye line, try to look at the camera as much as possible and help your audience feel like you're speaking to them. Well, you've just said that and you're looking down, rather than saying, try to look at the camera as much as possible and feel like your audience is, you're talking to your audience. They want you to engage with them. And the key to that really, I think personally, is knowing your material. If you know what it is that you're talking about, it's so much easier to talk to the camera because you're not focused on your notes. And so one of the biggest things that I've done, and when I had to do a 2-minute news presentation for the Golden West Network, and one of the things I did was I actually practiced my script. I got to know my material. I would spend a week with my script just before I recorded, and I would actually just every day go over it, get to know the material, so that when I recorded, I already knew basically the material. It's so much easier, rather than your brain's still processing the information as you're reading it otherwise. And the more that happens, I think the more you're kind of looking at your notes and losing yourself. So while I think you want to be natural, you still need to know what you're talking about. So at the end of this, we'll do a bit of an exercise on that, and then you guys can record yourselves. and then we'll go, yeah. So just because I want to help you to really see, how to do that really well, because that's the key. That's the key to engaging your audience. So that's the eye line. What else? So yeah, using cards. You can use cards as like a little jogging tool, which is it's an old school trick that we had years ago. If we had to stand up and do a debate, or if we had to stand up in front of people, we would just have like a little cue card with just the main points that would actually then jog our memory for the information that we needed to bring up, because sometimes you might lose yourself, you might lose a point, and then that way you'll look down and go, oh yes, okay, that's what I needed to remember, and that will automatically give you that memory jog. Okay, so that really makes a big difference and helps as well. So that's that one. And what else? I think that's it. Any questions on the eye line? Yep. Oh, just quickly too, the other thing that I use is, rather than having to talk to the camera all the time, I will bring in, and Janine has done this for me, like cue cards. So then what I do is I will do so much of the information I'm presenting, and then I will pause. And then I actually edit it after, so then I can actually just remember that sentence or that paragraph. Okay, that's what I need to say, and then I pause between, and then I'll do the next one, and then I'll pause. So what it does is it allows your brain to have one thought, pause, another thought, pause, and then go back and edit it. And then if I want to put any cue cards over the top that are highlighting, what I'm saying, I can actually add that into that space as well. It makes it easier for editing. Okay, so the next one on the next page is word fillers. And this is a really interesting one. It's just something we all do. We automatically want to we want to fill in the silence. And the way that we do that is we say ums and ahs. The best way to overcome that is just to pause, to allow yourself space, Steph said it, space without having words in between. But it's also okay to do some ums and ahs because it's natural. When we do talk to people between thoughts, we tend to naturally say ums and ahs. It's only when you're recording that you realise I've just said an 50 times. And then you've got to go back and take all the ums out. So if you've got some ums in it, it's okay, but just be comfortable in pausing between thoughts. And that's really the key there, because people tend to they don't want the silence. And it's okay to have a bit of silence in between thoughts. Yeah, I guess the key with this one is just practice. The more you know your material again, the less ums and ahs you're going to say, because your brain's just automatically going, oh, now what am I saying next? Oh yeah, so yeah, that's the filler word. So yeah, if you can just pause, yeah. So that's really the key. The next one is word emphasis. I've put this one in because when you are talking to your audience, you really want to emphasise the main points that you want to have stand out. In order to do that, you can actually say the word louder. You can pause between or after the word so that your audience is getting the main point. So if you're telling a story and you really want to get the main point of the story to come through, you would pause before, and then maybe you would highlight through a voice projection when you're using that word. So that would be, I think that's a really important thing, and one of the things that I had to do when I was working, doing stories with people in the community in Geraldton, was to make sure that I highlighted the main points so that it was positive. You want to end on a positive note so that your audience feels comfortable, they feel happy, because our reporting was really about the good stories that were happening in the community. So I made sure that that was what was coming out at the end. Yeah, these were the struggles that they've overcome, but this is what the end result was. So really think about that, what you are trying to get across in your story, and make sure you try and leave your audience on a positive note, because you want them to feel good about coming back. You don't want to leave them sad, you don't want to leave them in a negative state, and you can really use word emphasis to help them to get the main ideas as well. So the next one is voice projection and enunciation. This is a really interesting one because we tend to speak when we're nervous very fast, and the quicker we speak, the more we trip over our words because we're just going so fast. So the key to that is just breathe and slow down. Again, know your thoughts, be confident, and just know that the world out there is not judging you, okay? They're not judging you, just be who you are and remember why you're doing this. So whatever it is that you're doing, what you're recording, just think about the fact that you've got the courage to actually do it. And I'm one of those people, I do everything in fear. I'm like, you know what, if I don't do this, then, you know, basically the person I'm robbing the most is myself. So I'll just, yeah, I've got fear, doesn't matter. When I went for the interview for the job at GWN, that went to 3 states across Australia. I was like, oh my goodness, okay, rightio, you are doing this. You will do it in fear, but you will do it. So that's the key. Don't really think about the audience. The biggest tip that the cameraman told me was, don't think about who's behind the camera looking. All you're doing is pretend you're talking to one person and focus on that one person. So somebody maybe that you trust, somebody that you're comfortable with, and just imagine that camera is them. And you're talking to them as if they're in the room there. And don't think about what's on the other side of it. So I think that's what really helped me to have a very natural way of reporting, and also presenting the news as well that I did, was just focusing on pretending to talk to one person, okay? Because the audience out there want to feel like you're talking to them. That's really the key, and that will get them coming back for more. Okay, so any other questions with that one? No? So I think that's it. So that's really the key. That's the first part. That sort of moved pretty fast, but that's really the key to the beginning part of presenting well on camera. And the next part is really for us to write down a bit of a script. And I'd like you to write down a story, like a quick story that's something funny, like a 2-minute. It can be like between 1 and 2 minutes. Something that's a funny thing that's happened to you on a piece of paper. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to get that story and we're going to record it so that you can actually see yourself on camera. But I want you to actually record a story that you know, something that you could tell, you've told over and over and over again. So your brain actually knows this story and you could tell it off by heart without having to even think about it. Because I want you to feel really comfortable without having to worry about the words. Okay, so that will be the next part of this.